any rate, we're not going to see a 3-0. We are 1-1, which means the winner of this gets to go to match point, but not any further just yet.
And as history would say as well, Spanik and Water do come out on map number 3 always. Over Esports, they only have 6 members, so they're going to stick to the tried and true. And it's going to be the Winston Goats version coming out from Nova on this offense. The Pantheon are going to be playing the Doomfist and Sombra combination for defense.
It's interesting that it's on the defense as well, and it's also interesting that Nova have not made an adaptation to a Doomfist of their own when you consider that they did win in that that particular mirror matchup. This would be asymmetric though because you do have Water on that Sombra as well.
And that's part of the issue is you don't necessarily want to play the Doomfist into Sombra or the Ana. That can be dangerous. And all these picks can work out for them. Not so far though, they've lost 2 and this is probably the fight over.
Yeah, just kind of straight off the bat with that one. Nice stun on Spanik, but it's tough to follow that one up. In fact, just punches Blue straight back. No trouble there. Nova, they're probably going to have to shift things up a little bit, or at the very least kick it into a different gear here. They can't really take it slow and charge these ultimates up over time.
Well, it's 1 minute off the clock already for this offense, and the other thing to consider is ultimates coming online now. Water's nearly on the EMP. Both support ultimates about to get theirs for GE Pantheon as well. For Nova Esports, their highest charging member is 1 on 79. He needs to crucially get this grab, but he's still not close enough.
And even if they do get them, Water's now got an EMP. It just makes it harder. Good catch on Spanik though. Blue already drops though. That's the thing, they don't have that extra bit of survivability against the more explosive lineup here from GE Pantheon.
This is interesting. Nova can get the respawners slightly quicker. Water is a Doomfist, so he can punch his way back to point very quickly as well. But Nova need to move fast here if they want to take advantage of a potential 6v5, and they also still need to get this grab.
Very tight timing window, and Spanik's already back anyway, so unfortunately they've missed that opportunity. Like you said, now with these ultimates coming up on rotation, but they've got to still contend with this EMP and don't want to know it. He's just ready to get in position.
Only a 2-man though.
It's only 2-man, but it's still 2 people they can follow up on. Actually, a little bit overzealous there from Spanik. That's going to force out some transcendences from Backwall and Oyo both. Now this one's going to be the one that catches out Crazy Yes, gets D-Max, throws out a self-destruct though, so he does get the reset, and Medic goes down. Nova might have just done it. Ooh, hack onto Nexus. He's not able to Primal Rage. Does sting a little bit. He's got a closer respawn. And in the hog fight, it's Blue, and it all starts to fall apart once again for Nova.
I think, though, this is a decent fight for Nova despite losing it. They didn't get any progress, but they got a lot of ults out. Very important ones like the EMP, even defensive one like the Transcendence from Backwall. So for Global Esports, kind of baited out by the 2 tags. Yeah, it was just Nexus and Crazy Ass. That's not your ideal EMP targets. You can dive on that regardless. A regular right-click hack can still give you a lot of pressure. That's 50% of the EMP targets you've hacked already versus pressing the ultimate button and getting 2 instead of 1. It's really not that worth it. And for Global Esports, probably their worst fight despite winning.
But Water's already going to be coming back up on another EMP if Nova aren't careful, and if they die in the rotation, it's even worse. Sound Barrier's going to have to try and see them safe until they can get to the point, but a number of these members already take a lot of hurt. Finding on the point, might be able to get a third, in fact should here. So it's on GE Pantheon to respond. Spanik goes back down with the Meteor Strike, trying to isolate Nexus, but actually Spanik's a bit too low, and Nexus with the Primal Rage plenty of health. They finally find Water.
Doesn't save him.
An EMP as well, that's huge. Inhyuk down as well, and it seems that Nova have finally tipped the scales here. They got the numbers advantage, they're the ones set up on the point. They were able to just disrupt and displace GE Pantheon, who didn't really have the tools to commit any earlier than that either. So nicely handled, nicely played out by Nova.
And this time they were waiting for EMP GE Pantheon. That as Spanik got sort of taken away quite early, he got chunked out, was forced to use Meteor Strike, didn't quite get himself back into action quickly enough. Nova Esports finds Water before the Transcendence comes through. Oh. That's the EMP now, but instantly counted.
Yeah, nice timing on the Transcendence by Oyo, and they even finish off Water to boot. Ooh, self-destruct could catch on Nexus. Very hard for them to avoid that, not much they can do about it. Now a grab thrown out, they find Spanik and Inhyuk in it.
Big kills.
Actually finishes off Inhyuk. What a ragdoll that one is. And it is big kills. This is Sakura turning tail and running. Takes a nano booster to try and keep the point on lockdown. Medic takes some pain,
still melted
back out, and Sakura's still out of the mech anyway. Medic does stay alive, but you'd rather have Sakura here for a lot of reasons. They're not able to hold down this point the same way anymore. Water's now the one taking the hurt. Blue's picking that one off. Spanik trades 1 back, but it's only 1. Now he's in trouble. Might just go down, finds Restia, and that might just be the straw that breaks the camel's back for Nova here. They've lost both their supports, and they are going to signal the retreat.
And I do think that Nova here might make one change. Maybe Nexus goes into the Ryan, but actually he's quite close to Primal range. Maybe he stays. The point is very important, though, because they do have big ultimate advantage. Global Esports Pantheon had to make desperation swaps to get some players back in just to try and defend the point. They still lose 2 ticks anyway. Nova Esports, off of one push, get a lot of progress. Put GE Pantheon on a lot of pressure here, a lot of stress. Water now back onto Sombra, but it's a fresh hero versus what is soon to be possibly 5 ultimates, maybe even 6 from Nova.
Now in a bit of an awkward spot here, Global Esports Pantheon. They maybe just have the right ultimates. That's very early sound barrier. Self-destruct again out. Nice catch from Backwall. They're going to finish off Nexus, and that already hurts a lot. Sakura didn't find anything with the self-destructs, but like I said, Nexus out of the picture. They do trade that one back, though, and Backwall didn't actually use a Transcendence. Maybe could have. It forces Crazy S out of the mag, but they still get the kills. He gets straight back in it thanks to that. And Nova, they're just still getting the critical mass of kills. Backwall's going to come back in with a Transcendence here, but he's not really going to be saving many people.
That's the cap.
Shot's already dead. Oh, they've done it over the line. Nova just fragging out, similar to what we saw in Control. Even when they seemed like they were behind, they just pull it out of the hat.
Well, they needed to all in there. It doesn't matter. If you lose Nexus, I mean, that's tough, but you have to play with what you got. And in that specific fight, if you lose this fight, if you choose to back off and you reset, you basically don't put yourself in that situation again, because Water then gets the EMP for the next fight. GE Pantheon suddenly get their ultimates back. There is only one game state where Nova Esports are super heavily favored on a macro sense, and it was in that team fight. If they do not win there, they possibly do not win it all. Maybe GE Pantheon then complete the hold on to B. Nova know they've got one shot to make it count. Even if Nexus goes down, 5v6, guess what? They still have ultimate advantage. They must use the ults, and then they can still win, and they do cap because of it.
That being said, if they really want to make it stick, they do now need to hold on this defense. That's going to be very critical here. Nova are looking like they want to come out with a bunker composition. This is very similar to what we saw actually Cyclone coupling used against Hong Kong Attitude in the very last week of the regular season. Let's see if GE Pantheon, who are already looking like they want to feel something different. Hong Kong Attitude played goats into this, and it never quite paid off. I think this should have a lot more success if they are going to commit to this team comp.
Now the read on this is very important, because Nova Esports likely just want to play this regardless of what the offense is going, but the matchup wise, you do have to consider this Bastion Bunker Cop works much better against a Ghost than it will against anything else, and if GE Pantheon want to play dive, which they probably are going to, Water on the Genji here, Spanik on the Doomfist, Backwall's probably just going to scout with the Sombra. It will reveal the Bunker Comp straight away. Nova Esports have perhaps, once again, just like Hollywood, have read this offense incorrectly. They maybe assumed it was going to be Goats. It's definitely not going to be that.
I mean, when you got Spanik and Water, is it ever going to be Goats? But
sometimes, but Spanik is probably more likely to play the Doomfist.
And this is actually a triple DPS with a ton of dive capability. This is going to be a very tough ask for Nova.
Yeah, so it's not even a scouting Sombra anymore. They're going to commit to this, and what they're going to do is apply cap pressure. Backwall can go straight on top of the point, force members from Nova to respond to him while it's happening. GE Pantheon can dive, and they're doing that right now.
There they go, right on top of Blue, just looking to drill him down, but it doesn't quite work. They only set the tanks up. Spanik took a very long flank around and actually got caught by Oyo and punished for it. Now the follow-up from Crazy S, plus the crossfire from the Torp turret. Unfortunately, GE Pantheon kind of botched that.
You do have one kill against Nova, though, so that's something that they can maybe work with. Again, respawns a little bit closer for GE Pantheon. If they're fast about this, they can play this 6 versus 5. The only thing they do have to contest with is ultimates coming online. Look at Blue, 92%. This is where that tank form is very, very big. Outside of potential hack from Backwall, outside of Water getting some nice deflex, they're going to take a lot of damage. They're going to lose a lot of members.
By the way, that back there, that was One and Water knowing that each other is back in this fight area. So they're not really in this fight just yet. Water's on this kind of weird flank right now, and that's actually kind of hurting their ability to approach the Bastion.
And by the way, this turret is spotting members as well, so they're able to sort of see some rotation around the backside. There's even more ultimates coming through. Look at One, he's charging himself up.
Water does at least take out the Torp turret. That's the crossfire. like you said, a little bit of scouting that they get out of that.
I mean, that's a pittance to get back on their side.
Exactly, and Nova can now actually properly respawn. They had one very separated from the team because of where Water was positioned. Now he's actually rejoined them, so he just sets the turret right back up. And in this whole time, GE Pantheon haven't had the members to genuinely try and approach this position. They've just kind of wasted a minute.
All right, so importantly now the EMP is absolutely massive. It has to hit Blue, who is the Bastion player, and has to get Nexus as well. You see Nova are spreading far and wide. They do not want the EMP to hit everybody. There now has to be a choice. Does Backwall go for the Bastion, or does he try and get everyone else? It has to be one or the other. It cannot be both.
And you're also never going to get the Torb turret as well. So that's just going to be a factor.
You already lost the player, 2 players.
That's so rough. And I mean, the fact that one of them was backwall as well, it's kind of over before it started. There's just another 30 seconds gone. They still haven't quite figured out how to approach this Bastion. And they should have the right team composition to do it.
And by the way, even if you EMP Blue, first of all, if he reads it, he can go tank form earlier. That's a transformation ability, so it does not get cancelled. Secondly, if he does get EMP'd, Ressia can use a nano on him and then pocket him.
And there it is. He called it. He went early with the nano boost on. He already found Backwall. Water does at least straight that went back. That's something. But one, he's not going to turn over so easy. Now Water gets stunned, dropped down. Spanic's finding kills. Crazy S maybe wants to try and throw out a self-destruct. I believe he may have been hacked. As we know, he gets, not quite back in the mech in time, but doesn't matter. Self-destruct got nothing anyway. Nova's still a little bit slapdash on this point. Self-destruct forward now from Sakura. Cleans up one. And his turret. You and your horse. That's going to be Nova finally falling over on the point. It took a long time, I got to say, for GE Pantheon. And things nearly still went all right for Nova with how the EMP came out. Nicely handled, though, by GE Pantheon.
And I got to say, GE Pantheon's dive there did the damage. Despite the nano boost coming through, despite even the Molten Core being laid out on top of the Bastion there, and despite the fact that tank form was used by Blue, that was not enough to keep him alive. Absolutely huge plays by GE Pantheon to be able to take him down. If they fail to take down the Bastion, that would have been a very different fight. Nova probably full hold.
Now Nova making a bit of a change-up, to say the least, and this is interesting.
Both teams, really.
Yeah, this is the Doomfist, actually, that they were able to beat out Spanic's Doomfist with. They just want to hold out here. That's all they're looking to do.
And the actual thing here is Water's gone into Brigida, which means Blue on the Sombra counters out Spanic quite nicely. I would expect that Water maybe goes onto his own Sombra here. You, by default, can always choose to play mirror against the other team if things are not working.
And, I mean, that first little movement as anything to go by, things did not work. I mean, there was only one push. It's not the be-all, end-all. Oh, nice start onto one. He's going to be able to get out, though.
So I want to say here as well, timing's important. We're at 3 minutes 29. GE Pantheon want to get this within the next minute and a half if they want to get a competitive time. Early media strike.
Yeah, he's just going to have to get aggressive here. Goes down onto the back line, but can't actually find a kill. He has to turn back to find a tank. Good sleep on Nexus with that nano boost on him. They can just kind of leave him lie there while that runs out, then maybe scoop up the kill later. And in the interim, they've really started to go up, picking off these other members. Backwall's coming back out on a soldier as well, so we can rejoin the fray quicker. He's the only casualty so far at Nova. OWC Transcendence has run out, on GE Pantheon that was. But speaking of Nova and casualties, they are all falling over. And off the back of that, despite the great point A hold, GE Pantheon actually go into the time bank with more time.
And Nova Esports actually had the opportunity there. If they were able to win at least one more fight, they get a better time bank than GE Pantheon. That's the difference between winning and losing just that one fight as it was. And they had the Transcendence right in there, couldn't use it until later, or maybe chose not to. Either way, weren't able to save members, weren't able to get more members back on top of the point. GE Pantheon, they didn't even necessarily snowball through. That initial approach onto B was stopped up. They were forced backwards. Nova won that fight technically. So they can't even really use that as a bit of an excuse here. GE Pantheon were able to muscle out Nova Esports on that second approach onto B. And like you said, still maintain a bit of a lead in terms of time bank. But this is now a very competitive map. If you thought Hollywood was going to decide how this match plays out, wow, that was a very dominant game from the Global Esports. Isn't that just going to be one-sided? That's not going to be the case. Once again, this is now a very much, both teams could possibly win.
Yeah, this is shaping up to be a real slobber knocker, really. And I mean, I'm kind of surprised actually with how that defense went, because Nova are the team that have been pulling out these wins, even in situations where you feel they shouldn't. That's to say nothing of the ones where they, you'd feel they should. So, a bit of a shake-up of things, and says that this is still not over.
Going into this defense now, we are of course playing time bank, Spanic hiding out. It's going to be a very similar defense. At Nova, they really hit the wall on this one. They couldn't get past this very easily, so they now have to kind of reapproaches. They've seen this again. They know what they're up against. They know what they're expecting.
Slow collapse from GE Pantheon, so now Nova are in a position. They haven't taken too much damage. Actually, they do miss this opportunity. There was maybe a moment where they could collapse, but they found a frag anyway. They're still going with the numbers advantage. They don't need to take a 6v4 or something. They can just take a 6v5. Now it's a 6v4, and the numbers just keep getting better and better from there. If you're a Nova fan, finding Sakura, looking now for Medic. Inhyuk as well, stuck still on this point. Going to be dropped down. Finally, it's going to be Medic. Water, he is able to turn tail and run. Unsurprisingly, Sombras are quite good at that. That's going to be Nova Cap in the first point out.
And one attempt as well. This is such a big improvement from what we saw in the original attack approach onto A in regular time. 1 minute 50 just about remaining. Now get the extra 30-second bonus time from capping A. Any progress they get onto B is very important. If they do not get any progress, once this game goes into B, assuming it will go into forward scenario.
Great reaction start on Hispanic, but they're not actually able to get that kill in time to save Oyo. So the counter dive is still relatively successful by the defense here out of GE Pantheon. So now Nova, they still want to stick in this fight, but they're not having some unmitigated success now. And they will actually just need to back off from this one soon. I mean, don't be fooled by finding Inhyuk in water. I don't know if they can do this. Backwalls,
yeah, they can.
Transcendence. Doesn't save Sakura though. Oh, this has suddenly got very dicey.
The grab coming through as well.
That is a very aggressive grab, but it totally pays off. And off the back of, it almost feels like one single-handedly with those frags, plus that last grab out. Inhyuk does it for Primal Rage, can stall. And just when it seemed like GE Pantheon were about to rebuff them and Nova overextended, actually turning it back around.
I've got to say, first of all, it's not over just yet. Let's see if Global Esports Pantheon can bring it back around. Both teams are seriously running out of ultimates, but it's Nova just farming them up, and there is still a self-destruct. Transcendence coming up online now.
Nexus lives as well. That is huge. Now gets the big Hispanic heal. They're back in the fray. Hispanic's already dead. Sakura's out of the mech. Water's looking to go down here. Inhyuk, man alone, won't even get much time on that point. He's dead to rights. Nova cap out again. They have an opportunity for a second round of time back.
I gotta say, Nova capped out in a very similar fashion to what we saw from GE Pantheon capping out their own beat, which is just weird timing on ultimates. First of all, the EMP coming through from Water did not get the mileage. It didn't really get them any kills. It was basically one kill that came out of all the ultimates used by GE Pantheon on that B defense, and then both the support ultimates. There was only one Transcendence because Medic was playing the Ana. There was not gonna be a sound barrier. Transcendence came through when there was only about 3 members remaining alive. There was a nano boost that just went before that as well. Things just went so out of order for Global Esports Pantheon, they never got enough picks to really stop Nova Esports, who had reached critical mass on the point. They had basically 5 members alive versus trickling members from Global Esports Pantheon coming out one by one.
It's a very interesting situation for these teams to be in, to say the least. The fact that this Assault is just running so close, I mean, after how one-sided Hybrid just felt, I mean, maybe these teams ultimately are just map dependent. Maybe that's, you know, maybe that's the final word on it all. But if that's the case, then I'm curious as to see which team is ultimately going to be dependent on which map, because we will see all 4 at least.
We just cannot make any profound conclusions off of one map results. Like that's just been how these quarterfinals have gone so far. Still into time back right now, 2:52. Global Esports Pantheon have to cap out, get that extra 30 seconds, and then complete the entire map. And they're up against, once again, this entire bunker composition from Blue on the Bastion as well. They're actually going to choose to play the Ryan Ghost into this now. This is where it does get interesting. They must flank and rotate around that left side from what we can see here, right side from attacker's perspective, and they must immediately try and take down Blue.
And that's exactly what Hong Kong Attitude failed to do. Quick rotation as well. I do like the move back. They're not just going to sit pretty and over. Yeah, nice catch out by Inhyuk. Didn't go back into that turret form in time. They do trade that one back, but without the Bastion, they've really lost the centerpiece of this composition. It's going to be a lot of work for one Crazy-ass Nexus to do the damage here. They've got to now commit to the point. One's already down. They have to force this fight, and they've already started to lose it. Now Crazy-ass out of the mech. He's going to go down. The rest of the team knows when it's over. Oyo's dead. Resty's going to drop down to the point to die, and Nexus as well. That'll be the cap for GE Pantheon.
And this is where you actually don't really want to rotate Blue on the Bastion unless you have a Lucio, which you do not. because you want to play the Bastion there, do the damage, and then sit your Orisa in front with the Fortify. That's past now. We're already on to B. 2 minutes something remaining, and Global Esports Pantheon grabs out.
Yeah, they've got the tools here to snowball. One's already dead. They need his playmaking potential. Blue as well. Nova just walking into their deaths here. Nexus at least has this nano boost on him, now having run out, but Oyo comes in with a Transcendence. They'll get a Gamma to respawns off that. Rescue's already dead. Oyo's down as well. Inyok gets a shatter, and as the members respawn, Sakura with the self-destruct as well. And it looks like that's gonna nail Nova's coffin here. Global Esports Pantheon with a full minute over Nova coming into our second round of time back.
And this is the dangerous thing about playing something like a Bastion bunker composition on A is it is not scalable for the B defense. If you get pushed onto B, you must change your whole composition onto something else, possibly the Goats, if not a Doomfist Sombra again, like they had already played. And because of that scenario, you have this big snowball coming through from the offense who cleaned you up on that first attempt. They are going to get ultimates. You freshly changed onto heroes. You are not going to get any ultimates in response. And so GE Pantheon hugely favored to double cap and get both of those points in one go on that offense. So Nova Esports really hurting off the back of failing to get any value off that original bunker defense. Have they gotten any kills? That might have slowed GE Pantheon down, but they didn't even do that. They got completely crushed on that first A.
What a wild ride this has ended up being. I mean...
And I don't want to get off it.
Right.
I'm staying on.
Thank you, Mr.
Buckled
Bones.
in.
But I mean, the fallback on the Bastion, it was almost comical. Like I wanna get like some Benny Hill playing over that.
It's got nowhere to go. It's very narrow.
Yeah,
How do you dodge the charge there?
And the thing is, like, maybe what you got to do is what you did against Hong Kong Attitude, where you actually sit tight, but they didn't get the opening spam damage prior to that in the rotation. I mean, it's just...
Like I said, you sit tight, use your wrist Fortify to block the charge.
That's the best.
That's what you got to do. We do have to move on though, because we are now into our second time back. 4 points for both teams. Nova once again attacking, less than 1 minute. It's going to be the Winston Goats versus Orion Goats from GE Pantheon.
I feel like when all's said and done, it's just going to be a draw or something like that. This is a very aggressive hold from GE Pantheon. I like this. They're just trying to burn down the clock. They want to make sure Nova only have one shot.
So this is the thing. This kind of composition is very difficult to break through defensively because it's a classic Goats, right? Even if Nova win, they're going to do so into overtime. GE Pantheon know that, which is why they're playing this comp now.
Very smartly done, and now still not actually on the point. This is just GE Pantheon
swap,
slowly moving back, forcing Nova to just fight and brawl every inch of ground they're going to get. This is a real attrition one, and both teams need to not take any casualties in here, or they completely lose their opportunity to pull this off. And Shock Slow, there's the first casualty at long last, and now Nova Storm.
Got to get to the point.
That's the opening they were looking for. They have managed to get Restia up on that point, throws out a sound barrier. They charged up ultimates in that time.
Water's down!
They've got them. They're onto the point. They're going to be able to get this cap out. Whew.
That's absolutely insane for 1 minute. I do believe they get another 30 seconds to attempt onto B. Now the good news of Water going down with the Graviton Surges, he will have for B. The bad news is, for them at least, Nova Esports will get the cap onto A. That is now 5 points across this map for Nova Esports, and they still have countermeasures available. Transcendence versus Graviton Surge, they can counter that one through. It's going to be up to Indico. He's got to live, he's got to get the shatter, he has to land the shatter.
They've also got a self-destruct. There is some combo potential here as well. They've really, I mean, Nova can't wait. They've just got to go. That's going to be the first one. Restia in, goes down anyway. Self-destruct gets counted out on both sides of that engage. Knock back onto Nexus. There's the shatter, and it's a hot enough one. They found Blue. Nexus charged for to try and counter it, but he ended up just going down alone, isolated. One dropped. Crazy S out. No third to cap. That's going to be all Nova will get. The full 5 points. Now 2 minutes, just a little bit over that. They have to fully hold out GE Pantheon on point A if they want this to be a win.
This is where it will all end, because we're not going to get to another time bank anymore. Would have been unlikely to get a double cap on 1 minute anyway. You basically don't ever see that. Very difficult to do. And Nova Esports going to get stopped up early. Now this defense, they're going to try this again. They're just banking on this work, and they're saying, our first defensive attempt, the bunker comp with the Bastion, absolutely dynamite. So very effective. Nearly got the full hold on to A. We wouldn't even be in this position had that happen. But for Nova now, they're going to go back onto what they know, onto what has worked, at least for one of the defenses, but what has also failed miserably on one of the other defenses in Time Bank.
Speaking of one, the only deviation they will be making here is they are off the top and they're going to go onto a Junkrat instead. And I kind of like this. This gets a bit more displacement, gets a bit more kill pressure, and just the spam damage against Global Esports Pantheon while they're rotating. I think that's why Nova are making this adaptation. I'm curious to see if it works.
So what they are banking on here, the reason they are playing a Junkrat is they are saying if GE Pantheon want to play the Ryan Goats version again, or maybe even the Winston version, if you want to dive onto blue, even if the Bastion goes down, I'm going to get a Riptide. I'm going to do a lot of damage and still win this team fight. And that's what they're trying to do with this comp right now. They're really trying to counter specifically this now composition coming through from GE Pantheon, and Nova have the right comp to do it. It just, if this doesn't work, nothing's going to work for them.
And the thing is, GE Pantheon were able to outdo at least the Bastion and Bunker part of this last time. The only thing they didn't have to deal with was the Junkrat. Already dealt with the trap. Now they make the rotation. They haven't really got that spam damage out from one.
Yeah, not even close.
This is a much quicker rotation though. Blue can now sit free. They got the Fortify set up ahead of him. They can spam down from the high ground if GE Pantheon commit to the point, which is what they're doing here. This could be a bit dangerous from GE Pantheon. There we go, there's Static already down, Medic's in a lot of trouble. Crazy S just ducking in and out to keep the pressure on the points. That's going to be the full gamut of kills coming in. They did at least get themselves a little bit over a third. That is something that is very worthwhile, but they've also just fed all that ult charge to Nova.
They also don't have that much time remaining. If you get 3 minutes, you can get 1 tick per minute, then yeah, you probably can't. But if they fail again, it's really bad news for GE Pantheon. And the other thing you have to consider is they have to have some time onto B to actually get that 1 tick. Otherwise, we're going to go to a draw, and this entire map would have been one very long map that doesn't get anybody a point. This is tough now. There's a tank mode available, a nano boost available, and a Riptide, and you are still playing the Ryan Goats. You're going to get absolutely decimated by these ults.
And there it is.
Oh my goodness!
4 for 1. Sakura just alone, floating slowly out to a vacuous death on the moon.
And in space, no one can hear D.Va scream. Less than 30 seconds remaining, and there's still every other ultimate that they didn't use on Nova's side.
It's been too long.
You're playing Ryan Goats into Bastion Junkrat. This is what you need to have expected. And now it's too late to change.
10 seconds.
Water can still get the grab here.
Holt's going to stall them up if they're not careful. They've really got to commit these in. Now they've got to be careful as well. Blue's looking to get there's the nano. One, they've already found Sakura. They've already found Backwall. They're not going to go for the point, but Global Esports Pantheon are all dropping like flies. Last gasps, last dregs. Medic is the last man standing, and this is almost another Riptide available. That would be insult to injury, but not going to quite get it. Don't need it. They're going to get the full hold out, even though they were behind technically in every single time bank. Nova getting that cap out and finally making that bunker comp work when it counted the most. They're going to take it to match point.
Yeah, you might be behind, but you only need to win once. You got to win big, and you will get that map victory. And what we do now see, like you said, match point. It's been back and forth, and Nova will bring us to that map 4 in the lead. Now, I do want to make some final comments on what we did just see there. And what you do also notice in Time Bank is when teams do not have time to work with, which is the point in Time Bank, about 2 minutes is what GE Pantheon had on that last attack, is the fact that if you pick the wrong compositions or you realize they're the wrong compositions, you're stuck. You don't have time to make the necessary changes without really sacrificing some ults here. So teams are really basing these plays, offenses and defenses, around the fact that because there's not a lot of time to play with, what can I catch my opponent out with? What can I really try and swing in my favor in terms of matchup percentages to really get a win mathematically in that kind of statistical way, and then punish in a way where, well, now you've played directly into our hands and you cannot change.
But here's the thing that gets me. GE Pantheon scouted that. They scouted that. I feel like actually what happened there is on that middle defense of the time bank, Nova on the defense, they whiffed their defense. I mean, GE Pantheon, they approached that the kind of the one way that you can to give yourself the best shot, but also Nova kind of whiffed that. And that didn't happen the second time.
True.
I think GE Pantheon thought, oh, okay, this will just counter it out, and didn't really respect exactly why it worked the previous time, and seemed a little bit surprised when it didn't work the second time, because they scouted it and then swapped specifically onto that team composition.
I but I do not believe they scouted the Junkrat because one specifically
No, they saw the trap.
was hiding the whole. By the time they saw
the Sombra did.
oh,
see
did
the
they?
trap.
Okay,
Yeah,
well in that
yeah.
case, I'll take that one back. But I think what it really speaks to is the fact that they're very confident in playing that specific
I'll give
line
them that.
comp into the Bastion, because then they are also saying, well, we don't care about the Junkrat either. We'll also play into that. And to be fair, the initial way they got past the Junkrat was good. There was about 8% ult charge on the Riptire on that first approach. But it's the fact that, like you mentioned, Nova adapted better. First of all, because they had basically predicted that GE Pantheon were going to try the Rhine Goats again.
Yeah.
Second of all, they also had the backup plan in the form of the Junkrat. And then thirdly, they made the correct rotation, got blue out of there very quickly, something that they failed to do previously. So a lot of things that went wrong for them before on that defense, they turned around to make it right. And unfortunately for GE Pantheon, if that happens and there's only 2 minutes, well, you're stuck.
It felt like over the course of each three of those time banks, Nova just made little incremental improvements that ended up resulting in the win there. Because even going down to, the very last stretch of that time bank where they'd struggled to cap A on the first one, they had no trouble with it on the last one. And that was what gave them the opportunity to win by full holding A. So credit where credit's due. And now with them at match point, GE Pantheon going to pick Route 66. And again, we're in the situation they get to pick the map. They get to pick the DPSs, and given that it's Route 66, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Kefri back in.
But I legitimately don't know who is going to be in. I think there is a lot of good argument to put Kefri in here, especially based on the fact that, look, I joked about his hero pool earlier, but the truth of the matter is he's also played Sombra, also played Mei, also played Zarya for like one life.
And Ashe is good on this map. If our first match to go
if we're going off one sample size, one map,
played it. I'll take it, right? And Kefri's good on Ashe, so
if Kefri can do well, then I'll concede like Ashe is probably quite good. But specifically, you want to be playing that into other snipers in a far one up. That aside, there is good argument to bring him back in here. There also is good argument to keep Spanicon because that's what they've been doing so far on most escorts. Like I said, when you look at the history of what they played in this entire tournament, the only escort that Kefri has played for this team is actually on Dorado, not Route 66. So they would have to be potentially treading into unknown territory if it's not something they practice.
As a third note as well, there is an argument to run 3 DPSs because we have seen a significant amount of triple and quad DPS, but you'd like for it to be one that can also flex into goats. I don't know if this team necessarily has that, but whatever they do have, they need to pull it out now. They are the favorite here. They are the highest seed, but they are also down in the series, backs against the wall, and hometown Nova looking to close this quarterfinal out rather and make their way to a semi.
Speaking of hometown here, it's going to be guns blazing. Kefri's in his hometown. We're in the US of A, and GE Pantheon are bringing out the big guns. Nova Esports have to respond very, very diligently here. Backwall sniping, that's a real pick, just for your information. The other thing to remember is Nova Esports up 2-1. They might be the underdogs, but they are ahead.
So it is that triple DPS. They're not subbing in a third DPS player. They are flexing back wall onto the Widow. I do like this. We do get to see Kefri's Ashe once again.
It's triple sniper as well. That's what you got to consider. It is also going to be the Orisa Hog. Kefri's down to the combo.
And this is what CYC were able to do against this triple sniper. They used the Hog. They hooked the snipers out. They were able to get close enough to do so. Now it's just Hogs. I mean, it works, right? They finish off Sakura. Sakura wasn't able to do the same in response. Backwall does find one, trades one back, but I mean, very quickly the answers start to come in. Crazy S finds another one. Rez is there on Nexus. Rescue being down is somewhat significant. It leaves Oyo the sole healer, but they've still got the numbers. They're still moving the payload.
So look at this. Inhyuk and Sakura have both changed onto more dive tanks, and that's important because they have to try and reapproach this point. Orisa does not do a good job of trying to re-attack a position she has lost. Here comes that Dragon Strike, though, going to try and open up some space.
Oh, that's nice angle to come across. There's going to be the counter angle. Neither really getting much for their trouble. Now GE Pantheon have largely been able to regroup here, but
Kefri down.
Kefri down early as well, trying to play counter sniper, but has twice now got caught out. And nice whole hog just keeps the space. Water's just stuck up against the wall, trying to escape. They res Kefri. He's really going to need a pop-off to make this worthwhile. And Water has held down the fort. Kefri does go down a second time, but as I said, Water's been holding down the fort. I don't know that it's going to be enough to recover this because Nova have been getting too many kills. And now with Water dead, it's going to be a cap out.
And it's always going to be difficult for this kind of composition to come back onto the point, even with dive tanks. Nova Esports a better setup. They still have the Halt combo. They still have a Hog and an Orisa, two big tanks, very difficult to take down. And for Global Esports, Pantheon constantly down one member, but they are finding some more ults about to come up online. Bob is actually going to be a big one because that is how you stop Orisa from just standing on one spot and getting a bunch of value.
And they've also still got this Dragon Strike. They're coming into a much more tight area of the map. There are some opportunities to maybe pull out something with the Dragon Strike. There it goes, committed out. Now they look to get aggressive with the Ashe as well. Holding the high ground, trying to isolate Crazy S.
You got to get a pick here, that's
They
one.
find it, there we go. That's the opener. Restia not in a good position to res there. In fact, goes down as well. Nice follow up. They throw the Bob out as well. Instant
sleep. That's the thing, when you are playing Oreo, and that's a nice sort of adaptation from Nova, is once the Bob does come out, they can instantly shut him down. So the ultimate not going to get super high value. Also, Nova were backing out anyway, so it ends up being somewhat wasted. Kefri has to quickly charge this back up. If this is not going to be good, Kefri possibly has to swap. Nova are going to make a lot of swaps right now. Big changes up. One's going to be on a Genji. Shimada Bro's coming out right now. They want to make some dives happen, and Ashe is no Widowmaker. You cannot hookshot away. Coach Gun can only do so much.
Super Shimada brothers. And yeah, it's a lot of work that Kefri's going to have to do here now. Catch back up in that ultimate charge.
3 divers.
Very aggressive Valkyrie out of Restia. Blue's going to throw out himself a Dragon Strike. They all kind of walked into that minefield. Luckily, no one died. As I say that, one gets picked out, and they haven't had a chance yet to top off Nexus's health. Starts taking some real hurt, and unfortunately, they're unable to recover entirely from that opening chunk of damage. And a Dragon Strike gets 4 as they're all on the retreat.
That's probably the biggest Dragon Strike you'll see here. It's very difficult to get a whole lot of higher value off that, so Water getting those 4 kills, pretty decent. Over though, gonna go on to more of a classic goats, oh no, sorry, not goats, classic dive. Getting my words mixed up here. Genji and a Tracer. Very much enjoying that. There's not going to be a Zen or Lucio though, so the speed on this approach is going to sort of hurt here, but they still want the Sleep Dart versus the potential Bob. They still want a Sleep Dart versus the Hammond as well.
I mean, this was what we saw in the last matchup, right? We were seeing Genjis and especially Tracers to try and deal with those snipers. Unfortunately, Water's going to be dealing with the Tracer. And Kefri's just kind of free-firing it out here, throwing in the dynamites, getting big chunks out. Water's able to finish off members with headshots, with storm arrows. They've just got this entire angle on lockdown, and now they've got all these ultimates charged back up again.
The other thing to consider here is, because it's double sniper, one of the quirks of this matchup versus dive is you have a lot of burst potential versus dive members. This is why you see Blue change off Tracer. 150 HP gets melted almost instantly. Also, Tracer cannot get on the high ground with Kefri is. Sombra can. That's why they're now making this sort of adaptation, but they are running out of time. Less than 2 minutes now. This has got to work.
That's a neat little tech, throwing out the defense matrix to stop the shot on the dynamite, but now here's the dive in. It's got to make something happen. Water goes down, has to hide now from the self-destruct. Can't go after the transcendencing back wall, and the res comes in on Water, so it's kind of an ult for nothing, and suddenly the kills start to come back through. The moment the DPS are back in the fray, one again gets picked off. They did get all those ultimates out of GE Pantheon, but they didn't get kills and they didn't get cart progress.
Well, they are going to get, though, I think those ultimates it's going to make a decent amount of difference here, because now they do get to play the EMP very soon. That should be a very big ultimate against a lot of these members on GE Pantheon. That's got to be their big ticket, because if this one doesn't work, Nova Esports, they're in a really bad spot. They're making some more changes. Brigida's coming out from one. Restia swapped onto a Lucio. This is now 1 minute remaining. They don't really get to swap again. This is going to be what they have to win with if they can win at all.
It's going to be tough. They've got some of the correct tools, but Blue, he's going to be able to duck out of that one. That's Dragon Strike across. Still finds Oyo, though, with headshots out of the Storm Arrows, so they're still happy to take that. And Nova, they do have some ultimates. They need to dig deep. They find Water. That's a nice opener. They need to get a lot more than just that. There we go. That's going to open things up. Even with the res on Water, this lets them get back on the payload.
So this is where it's quite contentious, because the distance on the card is not very good.
So after Strike laid in,
that's a
able
big
to
kill.
Find Medic. That is absolutely massive now. And it looks like GE Pantheon have finally been broken open, especially with Kefri going down. That's no Bob.
So there is now going to be one more defense, because the card was so far back, as was mentioned. Global Esports Pantheon can still get one more defense in here, importantly, and they still have ultimates to do so, but the EMP has to be the make or break. If this can hit multiple members, especially Medic, that's the key member here. You gotta shut down Valkyrie, you gotta shut down the Res.
That was the key ultimate to preserve. Let's see if they can make it count. They find N-Shock with it, and they should be able to finish off the kill. No, they don't. Finally get the kill, and that took an excruciatingly long time.
Trying to get Kefri here.
Crazy S, so low, stays alive, and while that's all going on, the Res comes in on N-Shock. Crazy S loses the mech. Crazy S goes down. Restia needs this barrier, doesn't save Oyo. Kefri does go down to Nexus. The sound barrier does give these other
more
to fight a
res.
bit longer. Medic, they need to pick him off. Oh, this is all falling to bits as suddenly the DPSs just frag out once again on the side of GE Pantheon, and the EMP, it just didn't get the members needed.
And that's because Medic was so disciplined in using the Valkyrie early. He knew he couldn't take a chance. If he doesn't get the Valkyrie off, he probably dies. He can't fly away. He can't do anything. He wastes that entire life, and that ends up being a cap for Nova Esports. But because the Valkyrie was used, AoE healing can somewhat nullify the effects of the damage follow-up from EMP. Also, he safely gets a res onto Inhyuk, which ends up being the only member that dies within the EMP.
Huge.
So that gets completely nullified. Medic completely saves that entire defense, keeps everyone else alive. Global Esports in, get to fall back on the damage remaining. Kefri doesn't really die until the end, but by that point, Nova have basically lost anyway, and Nova put themselves in this scenario in the first place because they hit such a big brick wall on the middle of B. They could not get any cart movement. Even when they won a fight to get the cart going, they were never going to get enough movement to actually cap out. GE Pantheon were always going to have the time remaining to get one more contest.
That was just really nicely done by GE Pantheon. There's no two ways about it. They struggle a little bit on the A defense, but they more than made up for it on the B defense. That was very one-sided, very dominant. I'm reminded once again, to some extent, of our Hollywood. And now GE Pantheon looking poised to tie this series up. It is going to be a miracle defense from Nova that sees them winning on this map.
It's going to be a doable one, though. You do have to remember, because the cart got to the end of B, didn't quite finish the cap, it still basically counts as 2 full points that GE Pantheon do have to cap through. It's not going to be easy, but depending on how this goes, the GE Pantheon can hit some big shots. It won't be difficult either. Water to start things out early.
I mean, look at him go. There's going to be the res on ones. They recover at least a little bit from that. But Kefri, again, this is triple sniper versus double sniper. And this is exactly what Kefri on the Ash should be able to deal with well.
But there's only one healer. If Medic cannot do enough healing, the triple sniper is going to get taken down. So far, that's what's happening.
Well, especially when it's the tanks going down. He chooses to res Inhyuk. That means they're lacking in water. They do have the closer respawn. They find Inhyuk again. So Nova have now anchored this defense.
The thing is, with triple sniper, one support is you've got great offense, a lot of damage, but really poor defense. A lot of trouble here. Backwall's taking a lot of damage. First ultimate's coming online for Nova. They have great pick potential. Both teams still running Orisa Hog, but the double support is starting to really come through big. Don't forget, Discord Orb is absolutely huge. You can melt the tanks of Pantheon. They cannot melt your tanks.
It's a bit of an awkward Dragon Strike. It does keep GE Pantheon back from the card a little bit. Huge hook on Crazy. Yes, this is the opening they've been waiting for. They do still have a harder time contesting that high ground, but with the headshot on Blue, they have a much easier time now, and they open up. Back wall does go down, but the damage has been done here. Res on Blue, but they've already found one. Restia's down as well. Blue does at least make his res worthwhile, but GE Pantheon, they have cracked this one open.
You do notice that because Craziest went down first as the Hog, there's no sort of counter pick potential there, outside of the snipers at least. But what you need to find is Nexus still has a halt, there's no hook follow-up, you can't get the correct kills in response, and so you can't contest.
Now, just looking to continue the movement forward. Water just threw out the Dragon Strike. Kind of as a bit of a zone.
Do something.
Nice approach, and yeah, huge catch onto Nexus, keeping him stuck still while they finish them off. Res does come in. They had the Transcendence to cover for that one, and Blue finds out his counterpart. Now, Medic with the Valkyrie, they really need to make something of this. They've already used up a whole hog, and then
Medic.
There they start going. Water and Kefri, make it count. Medic did go down. It's the only healer, but if they can just out-frag here, they could still do this one anyway. Good damage on Restia allows Water to finish off the kill, allows them to finish off one as well, and they will still get that cap.
So this is where the story really begins. Can GE Pantheon get enough momentum to just finish this map where it is on the B point? Can Nova Esports get enough time down to really pressure out GE Pantheon? Maybe complete this hold, complete the 3-in-1 victory. It's going to be difficult, and not everything will have to fall into place here for either team.
Just Coach gunning back. Hey, yo. And this is nice setup here from Water. Keeps some good angles. They can see what Nova are going for here.
Very precarious position as well, because once the Dragon Strike does come through, Nova are in tight corridor, so they have to be playing out in the open to avoid that great pick off.
And Blue has found that one pick so many times as well. You've really got to hand it to him. This does put GE Pantheon on the back foot. They're just going to back off for now.
The full reset's important here. Backwell now going onto a Zen. Don't want to be playing the triple snipers anymore. Losing a lot of value there. Do need to get some extra healing. Blue finding more picks. It's just going to slow things down. That's not even one you can really resurrect because of the positioning available. So now, time lost and big damage done. Look at that.
That's the thing. Now they can go for the route, right? This time, the Dragon Strike was already gone. If they'd gone for the route the first time, they would have run straight into the Dragon Strike. They knew that. Water used it to zone Nova off the cart so that GE Pantheon could move out, and it was in that move that Blue found Ketfree. That was so huge. And if you can keep doing that, then GE Pantheon just lose time.
So that was one ultimate used from Water and 3 hero swaps, which means 4 reset ultimates on the side of GE Pantheon. Nova, however, have been charging ults this entire time. A lot of time's been lost as well. Here comes Medic with the Valkyrie. This means we're going to play.
Here we go. Bob's going to do something. Ish. He's going to do something. That's definitely something. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. It's actually Inhyuk that's really paying off this one. Water as well. They are just starting to chip out the damage here, getting these kills through at long last. They've cracked it open. And they weren't in a particularly favorable situation with ultimates either. They had the Valkyrie, they had the Bob, and the Bob didn't do a lot.
So this is going to be, quote-unquote, a kind of acceptable loss for Nova Esports because they maintained ult charge and they forced ults to be expended by GE Pantheon, what few ults there was available. Now you're in a position where, first of all, Blue has Infrasight. He can take down either sniper with ease if he can land the shot. Nova Esports also have double support ultimates and others to now win the fight with.
Nice early catch on Inhyuk, and then the Tithe pressure immediately converts on the back line. Nexus as well, popping the Primal Rage. They are not playing around. They do not want to let GE Pantheon get any more momentum. They have to use all of these ultimates, and they have to sequence them out so well.
And look at this. Nova just used 2, and they win. Infrasight and also a Primal Rage. Does get it finally taken down. Kefri's tired of this. He's saying, you've been playing Widow for too long. You've been getting too many picks.
Let me show you how it's done
right now, but there is still a lot of ultimates. You have to be an insane Widow to overcome this many ultimates. Also armor into play from Rally.
Nice one to separate Crazy S off from the team, but he's going to get largely rescued. Double self-destruct throw. Now Sakura finds his counterpart. Adds something of an opener now. GE Pantheon technically with a numbers advantage, and Oyo did pop a Transcendence. Kefri again finds Blue.
Now.
He is showing Blue how you headshot a Widow. It's going to be an absolute display of dominance. He is not going to let Blue keep finding back wall. And speaking of, Backwell's got a Transcendence. Medic's just popped the Valkyrie now, and Nova, they are fresh out. Sorry, ult machine broke. Understandable. Have a nice day. GE Pantheon just looking to close this last bit of distance. They do need to get the kills still, but they are well poised to do so. Inhyuk with the Primal Rage, they're keeping everyone split apart, and it's only a matter of time. The scrap on the high ground starts to fall the way of
Dragon Strike.
Dragon Strike rakes across the lot. Not the greatest, but they do still disrupt where Nova can position off the back of this. Kills coming through. It feels like a matter of time, surely.
This is the sort of position now where there's so many members available for GE Pantheon, no members available realistically for Nova, just the Transcendence trying to keep players in.
And it is exactly that, it's trying. It's the last try. They do get the tanks back in, so that is an opportunity, but with Sakura getting back in the mech, with a self-destruct available as well, immediately throws it out, immediately forces the hand, immediately finds Blue. Now one Crazy S, slow on the payload. They find Restia. That's another healer out of the picture, and the Dragon Strike keeps them off the cart while they complete the cap. And we are tied again. We go to the full 5.
This is now a 2-2 series, 2 back-to-back quarterfinals, where we will go to a full 5 maps. You have to start wondering, especially based on what we saw on Route 66, Kefri on Widow was always going to be something that needs to be addressed. Now, surprisingly, or somewhat unsurprisingly, because Ash is in the mix, he hasn't played Widow this entire series for both the maps that he's been involved in until just now. And it seems like Nova forgot, look, this guy can go on Widowmaker at any point and is probably going to do work. The other issue that I have to sort of point out here is knowing that GE Pantheon really took their time to get him back onto Widow, because as soon as that happened, the game was on its head. It totally changed. And speaking of totally changed, the narrative now is that it's going to be match point for both teams, not just Nova. Any team can still win this as we're about to head into map number 5, but that will happen after a short break. We are going to leave you in just a bit of a suspense, but when we do come back, we are going to conclude the second semi-final. Who's going to be Nova or GE Pantheon? Find out after this break. Welcome back once again, and thank you for your patience as we are about to head into map number 5 here in our second quarterfinal in Overwatch Contenders Pacific Season 3. And this one, much like our opening quarterfinal of the evening, has been absolutely heating up. 2-2. It's been back and forth. It's Nova, then GE Pantheon, then Nova, then back to GE Pantheon, and it will all be decided now on Ilios.
And let's again go back to this, much like our first quarterfinal of the night. We are tied up 2-2, going back into control. And in that one, it was the team that won the first control that won the second one. Even though they were the lowest seed, even though they're the underdog, yada, 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 yada. We've all said it before. We are in that situation once again. The minutiae of what happened in the middle, a little bit different, all things considered. And it does feel that when GE Pantheon have been winning, they've been winning very hard. But we're still in the situation where the two teams are tied. Nova won the first control. We go back to a second control. And it's Ilios. I mean,
it's also their choice.
Yeah, it's relatively similar in a lot of ways to Lijiang. You don't have that control center where there's like you must play goats. But Ilios is actually still a map where we do see a significant amount of goats. We see Super McCree as well. We do see a better Farah. What I'm more curious about is what a GE Pantheon going to do?
Because, and I have the same curiosity, because you are in a sort of position now where it's tournament life for both teams. It's not like this is a mid-season regular game where you're like, all right, well, you know, we'll do whatever, and then whatever happens, happens. Next week, we'll just give some more game time to our 4 DPS again. Here, it's make or break. I think there's reasonable argument to say across this entire series, look at where you've won, look at where you lost. I think there is fair argument to say your best DPS duo, factually based on results, has to be Kefri and Water, and it would nearly be a mistake to not be running them here on Ilios, but it is going to be up to GE Pantheon, and they've got to make this company have some very difficult decisions to make, and if it works, they'll be celebrated. If it doesn't work, it's going to be very disappointing for them. And Nova as well on the other side, I mean, very much the same thing. A win is going to be great, a loss is going to be super disappointing here.
Win would be great for a number of reasons. It's not just going through to the semi-final. For a team like Nova, it's not just proving that they are still potentially that good. Some of these players have been in this region for an incredibly long time. Restia being one such example. It would be so great for them. Like some of these are like ex-Matchy players who did well way back in like the beginning of OPC and have then just kind of struggled.
Just Restia.
It would be so, but it's still, I mean, and these other players that are even newer still, they weren't in that first wave of players from this region. It would be so huge for them to prove that they've still got something, even with all the foreign talent that's come into this region in these last 3 seasons of Contenders, even with all the other great teams that have gone on to higher places. It would be so huge for this team to be able to pull that through, especially when they would do it in what is technically an upset. On the other side of that, GE Pantheon, I mean, again, it would mean a lot, I think, for all of these players, some of whom are huge talents that have just been building up and up and up. Like, I'm not just talking about Kefri. You've got to acknowledge Water in that as well. Kind of the centerpiece, funnily enough, of Go and Water S from Korean Contenders trials. It's so great to see him absolutely thriving on a team like this. And that's to say nothing of the skill of the rest of the team. You want to see both of these teams be able to make a semi-final, but naturally only one can.
Well, I think both teams, and across all 8 teams in the playoffs as well, everyone's got such a good story coming into this. Everyone's got a lot of good reason to win. It really feels bad if anyone loses. I mean, Talent Esports, we were in that same position. If either they lost or Cyclone Coupling lost, it was going to feel like something really big being taken away from this tournament. Here now you're in a sort of similar position where you do really feel for both these teams here, and unfortunately one does have to go home, but the other one will continue up against Cyclone Coupling, our other sort of, the winner that we didn't expect to be able to beat Talent Esports, but in a sort of strange way, we're kind of glad they did. Now moving into map number 5, there's various considerations for both teams, kind of touched up on some of these factors, but the important thing is you do have to look at the result of the early control map. The fact that it was a Nova win. This is a Nova map choice. It is back on control as well. Yeah. There is a reasonable amount of confidence that you do also have to consider. There is choices that GE Pantheon have to make. Now, the good news for them is Ilios traditionally has been a better Widow map. However, outside of Ruins, can you play it on Lighthouse? Yeah. Can you play it on Well as well? Because that's the other consideration. you would like to run someone like Kefri here.
Yes.
But if you win Ruins and you lose the other two, you're also shooting yourself in the foot based on hero pools. Now, we could be wrong here. Kefri could have another hero somewhere in the back pocket that no one knows about.
There is Super McCree on well, potentially.
But he hasn't played McCree this season. We don't know how much he's got in there.
I think he has very briefly.
No,
It's certainly like...
Maybe one life, like the Zarya on one life. But what I'm considering here is, as a proper pick that's not a desperation pick, that's not a like, let me just do this as we're about to win or lose or whatever. This is part of our core strategy, and it is something we have practiced. That's what I always got to go back to is, what have G Pantheon actually practice on Ilias when they scrim this map? Who are they using? What are they practicing? Because that's what they got to go back on. And that may be conflicting is, if they practice with Kadalis or Spanik, the conflicting thing they have now is, but they've been winning with Kefri. They haven't been winning with the others. So the conflict is, do you go to what you practice, assuming it's not Kefri, or do you go to Kefri? What is it now for G Pantheon?
It kind of feels like, I mean, when it is Spanik in the mix as well, it does kind of feel like he's been a bit like found out by Nova. And I don't think that's like a specific, like they were like, okay, how do we shut down Spanik? It is just, it feels like everything Spanik can do, actually, the DPSs on the side of Nova can do better. I mean, it was the Doofus.
Or at least they can match it. They can't match the Widowmaker. That's one of the factors.
No one's able to match Carroll. I mean, no one's tried to match him on the Ashe, but like no one can match him on the Widowmaker. And I would say the same of Water as well. No one's able to match Water on his real shining DPSs. Like, I feel like there is a world in which you make this work. Like, even if you've not practiced it as much, I think I agree with you. Like, that'll be the decision they're trying to make. Okay, we've scrimmed with this, we've practiced this, but maybe we have to play carefully.
I mean, this is also assuming they didn't scrim this with Kefri. If they did scrim this Kefri, then the answer is very clear. We are going to get into that, though. We are so close to actually getting some answers here, and boy, do I got a lot of questions.
So close to sending one of these teams
what I will say
home
is,
as well.
What I will say is, in terms of practice, very hard to practice against GE Pantheon when they have Kefri, and he's going to be in, boys and girls. It is going to be the Water Kefri duo, because what other teams have a player like this who is almost a pure Widowmaker specialist? How do you practice against someone like that when most teams do not have that? You can practice against Doomfist. You can practice against what they run with Spanik, because other teams will run Doomfist. You cannot practice against Kefri because no other teams are running a specialist Widowmaker. And now it's do or die again. Somebody has to win here, somebody has to lose, and it will all come down to this.
And the thing that's incredible, Blue's actually come out here on a Widowmaker of his own. He is very fast going to find himself on the other end of Kefri's scope. We'll
see about that.
And we will certainly see. And actually, he's going to find himself at the far end of some Pharaoh rockets from Water.
Oh, boy.
Trades that one out. Nexus also finds Medic. Inhyok does follow up on that kill. But that's not the ideal direction for the tanks of GE Pantheon. Without Medic as well, backwall solo healing, Kefri would have to pop off, and they know that they need to play a bit more conservatively with sightlines.
That's the thing. It's a confident statement. It's saying that even though I lost a couple of jewels on Route 66, it's a new map. I can take it to them. And if you're going to go down, you're going to go down swinging. And that's assuming they do go down. Right now, it is going to be one pick onto Blue, as the point, though, it has already gone over to Nova.
I mean, this should be the opening, though. Water is able to find out Oyo, and suddenly they all fall apart, right? And they've got the two tanks, they've got the two healers as well. They're not going all in on some triple DPS. Crazy Ass does find Sakura back. That makes it harder for them to pressure the point. Water has to back out for a second, but he's alive. He can keep piling in the damage on the site. Oh, nearly got rescued in the rotation. Inhyok's going to do the honors of finishing that one off. And now with the barrage, this is the critical mass of kills. Global Esports Pantheon poised to take this cap off Nova.
Yeah, they're very much wanting to win that fight as well. Triple ultimates committed in there. Infrasight coming out super early. Bit of an early-ish kind of start from Kefri there. Wasn't doing a lot of damage, and then suddenly he got the first ult of the game before any of the other 11 members. And now G Pantheon have secured that point. Nova, though, about to come up on their own ultimates. The Infrasight response from Blue means he should have an advantage versus Kefri.
This is where I feel Water could actually be the difference maker on the Pharaoh. Assuming Blue isn't able to get those shots, and you see that. Look at this wraparound. Inhyok on one side. And I like the counter there from Crazy S to keep on Water. It stops them finding that wraparound. Sakura trades out with Oyo, who had a Transcendence. That is very big. Again, makes that fight on the point. Nova nearly caps out a little bit harder. Sound Barrier now running out, has finished. Water dying again, unfortunately. G Pantheon have struggled to get the kills, but they've weathered the storm in terms of ultimates that Nova have thrown at them, now losing Sakura's mech.
Kefri's got to carry right now.
I think it is starting to fall apart on the point itself. You're right, Kefri's going to have to carry, and again, still not getting the kills.
This is about over right now. We are seeing Global Esports trying to slow things down. Nova will inevitably get this cap, and one of the quirks you have to start noticing is Water's been shut down multiple times now because there is both a Widow and a Diva on the Nova side. Water is forced to change. He's going to match the Brigida from one. He knows that it is pointless trying to play a Pharah into someone that can snipe you out. Now the sniper, Widow versus Widow, that's fine, but you do not want to be the Pharah receiving that scope.
And this is where I want to see Kefri get a bit more into it, right? He's played very conservatively with the sightlines here. Blues
this is close.
He's had easier sightlines because he's been going for a Pharah, but oh man, finding out Kefri, that's a big shake-up of things. Once kind of alone on the point trying to deal with this.
That's a mines used as well, which is more ultimates committed. Nova have barely had to respond.
And there's a pop-up on tanks that Kefri's going to have no hope of killing anytime fast. Does force out the Transcendence, which is a nice bit of something, but I mean, G Pantheon need more than forcing out ultimates. They need kills, they need pressure on the point.
And this is where you see more players just going in the way. It's actually slightly evened up here.
He's down now. This could be the opportunity as they start to move in towards the point. With Risk having been down, yeah, they're committing hard, and I mean, they've got to, right? It's their last opportunity to do so, but they've lost Kefri. They're only DPS. They lose Medic as well. They're just not able to convert these kills.
Last fight.
This is so unfortunate. We're not seeing what we need.
Kefri's on Tracer.
He's got to, I mean, they need to get members onto the point. Backwall's going onto Soldier. They just got to die for this. Anyog's still there. He can still stall it out, and he did find Oyo. Rally as well out. They're not out of this one just yet. Medic is in there. They throw the minefield in, but it needs to get kills. They've got one, and Nexus up against the wall, but Nexus is a primal rage to boot. Kefri is ducking and weaving off to the side. Kefri finds one. That's an opener. That's just something. Water does go down. Kefri's found Crazy S as well. I mean,
it's a big problem
I think
here.
he can do it.
Backwall is still on a Soldier. He's got the damage, but they don't have the healing.
They've got them. They've managed to do it just barely, and Kefri even finding his counterpart towards the end there.
Backwall has the suicide.
It's rough. They're in a really tight spot as well in terms of their picks. I wouldn't be surprised to see Backwall actually change as well.
He must come back as a Zen, otherwise they will not be able to win properly without double healers, especially now you have Tracers on the field. You have to be able to deal with the Tracers. Not only that, I think Inhyok's pick on the Hammond is starting to really wear down on this team. Winston gives you a lot more value. The Hammond has just not done that much. Nova is still in the lead. They have to fight this very carefully.
Oh, Water gets picked again. Inhyok's coming up on another minefield though. Kefri's going to have to duck and dive for that health pack.
He's got a bomb.
Got to get back onto the point. The point got stolen by Nova. They're still fighting from behind. Kefri's down as he comes onto the point for this one, and they did not get to commit Inhyok's minefield. They got the one, they got the fight, they got the rescue to keep it alive a little bit longer. They were never in a favorable position from there. That last fight loss isn't unsurprising, but Nova are looking stronger here. GE Pantheon still haven't quite turned on the gas.
And I think Nova Esports actually outcomped GE Pantheon there. The one Widowmaker pick from Blue, so important. Unless Kefri completely shuts them down, Blue shuts Water down, or at least applies enough pressure onto Water that Water must change. He goes onto Brigida quite late. Then you also have this again, the Wrecking Ball, the Hammond. I just do not believe the Hammond had enough value for Global Esports to continue running him. Winston Nexus was doing so much more work. Craziest and him working together was absolutely phenomenal. You just cannot do that with this composition that GE Pantheon have. Now they're on the back foot. This is it. This is dire straits. This is so difficult now. Nova Esports, they're on match point here on Ilios.
And that's the fact of the matter. GE Pantheon this time, it's going to be a little bit harder for Water to get contested. Crazy S is going to have to do most of the work himself. Comes around the long flank by the windmill. Going to get the opening damage, and I like Kefri on the Ash here as well.
It's that or McCree, you got a choice to make.
And it's paying off. They find Crazy S's mech. They've got the opening damage out. Just looking to find more kills. They found Oyo, nicely done by Water. And there's the thing, now that Water isn't being pressured in the skies all the time by Blue on a Widowmaker, he's able to get so much more work done. It is absolutely paying dividends. Nova do get the early cap, but they've lost this fight. And this will go back the way of GE Pantheon.
And honestly, the fundamental here, the philosophy here for Global Esports Pantheon is Ride on the horse that got you here, and that horse looks like a sniper and a Pharaoh working together, and they are able to clean this through despite the cap through on Nova. They snuck that one in there. That's actually very important for Nova Esports because it's denying cap progress for GE Pantheon.
I mean, now that it's 20% worth of cap progress, that will really count for something. But the trade-off is they did feed a lot of ultimate charge over to GE Pantheon to the point where Backwell's been able to commit an entire nano boost, and they've still got a whole bunch of other ultimates charging up.
So here we go. Nova now going to change one onto McCree. This is going to allow him to deal with water a little bit better and maybe take the fight to Kefri on the Ashe. The problem is here, like you said, there is not going to be a Valkyrie. There is a couple more ultimates for Global Esports that Nova do not have.
One's already taken some chunks. He actually has to be careful. He does need to contest water, but he also can't be too out in the open. As the barrage to come out, nicely mitigated. They largely just kind of avoided it because of the little overhang there, the little wooden struts. I don't know what purpose they serve architecturally, but in any case, it saved the team. Oh, nice boot from
already going somewhat poorly for Global Esports.
Kefri's low. OYO does get traded out. Kefri's going to throw out Bob here, gets the heals in as well, and the minefield from Inchuk on the point. This one pays off. Water does go down to 1. He's got to do a lot more than just that. Cap back again from Nova.
And that's the thing, is the mines were out as well, but GE Pantheon were far too low. Kefri was too low to contest, throws out the Bob just to try and get something on top of the point. Gets Riz back in though, fight's not over.
Yeah, and this is still now progress ticking up for Nova. Crazy S is a self-destruct to preserve the mech if need be. Nice catch with the bump off onto 1, and immediately they convert other kills. Crazy S ended up off the side as well, and Water found rescue before going down. So suddenly GE Pantheon hit back and hit back hard. They do not want to lose that point any more times. Again, it's a shame to have lost out on all the extra percentage. This all of Nova's percentage, by the way, percentage GE Pantheon should have.
With the primal rage as well, they're just going to try and keep stalling this one out. They're still just getting away with so much.
Nexus is going to go down here. One's got a dead eye. I say Nexus is going to go down. It's taking them a long time to finalize these kills, and that is costing them. It's costing them very significantly. They're still having trouble dealing with 1 as well. Now channeling the dead eye, doesn't get anything for it.
I think Nova Esports at this stage, maybe
nice
they should have reset already, but they're getting so much extra progress. It's hard to fault this.
This is getting a little bit wild as well. Going off the edge there, Crazy S, the bump from the self-destruct kept him in the well, and now again, DPS is opening up. They finished off 1, that's the critical one. But look at how much percentage Nova have.
Not only that, they get the percentage, and they get the ultimates to Sakura, Medic, and Backwall. 3 of them all had to use ultimates there. They got too desperate. They knew, look, this is taking too long. We are losing too much percentage points here. Nova are too far ahead. We must use something. Now, Nova also used some ults there, so they don't get away with this one scot-free. You want to save to take down Medic and Water. Now you have to recharge that one up. Double support ultimates not quite available for Nova. They're still just struggling to get these ults in there before they push.
It's bizarre. It feels like GE Pantheon are winning the fight, but they're never ahead, not in ultimates, not in cap percentage. And it's just bizarre. Water, in a lot of trouble here. Gets out by the skin of his pearly whites.
Bob's in there as well.
And now they're going to be throwing out this rocket barrage as soon as they get the opportunity. Finds Restia. Will not finish him off that quickly. In fact, will not finish him off at all. They find Nexus though. Kefri starting to pop off. And Water staying alive so critically. Takes a long time for him to go down. Now with the sound barrier having run out. Kefri's getting aggressive. 1 goes down. This could be what they needed. They get the late res on Water as well. And finally, it's a fight that they've won. No sneak caps through. No overforced ultimates. No surprises out of Nova, and Kefri popping off. Feels like status quo restored. We are tied up 1-1 on Ilios, and it all comes down to ruins.
And 84% as well is what Nova get to sort of take away from Global Esports, and it feels like they almost stole that cap percentage away. First of all, they got that very early 20% that GE Panther just kind of gifted to them, and Nova Esports at no stage did I feel like they properly did a good reset while maintaining some sort of comeback mechanics, because like you said, it feels like they're losing because they kept feeding members in to continue the cap progress while they got 84. They did get some ultimates out, but they didn't save any ultimates. That is a big issue. We're actually going to go right down to the wire.
Tough.
Just like our previous quarterfinal, it is absolutely so tight, and I cannot tell you who's going to win this. Not just yet. Water and Kefri, though, going to play what they know how to play. Nova Esports probably going to change Nexus onto Winston when they realize what they're up against.
Yeah, this is a tough one as well. You don't have that flat counter to Water like you've had previously. However, this is why we haven't seen much Sniper on Ruins lately. Goats. Nova are going to play a straight Goats with the Reinhardt in. This is going to be tough.
Global Esports Pantheon can't win with this. They're probably not going to win at all. Again, with this composition, with these players, they're not going to change to their own goats. GE Pantheon must win with DPS members.
They found blue. That's a big opening. That's the thing. They just need to frag out with Kefri and Water against the goats. A tough ask if I ever heard one. This is exactly what made GOAT so dominant in the meta. The fact that it could beat out team comps like this. But GE Pantheon are winning this fight. They are eking out the kills, and Nova again nearly stole the cap, but this time not quite. GE Pantheon secure it.
And that's going to make a big difference there because GE Pantheon are not going to be 20% down on cap like they were previously. Nova Esports are going to predictably make this big adaptation. They must. They have to. It has to happen. And Blue wants to take the fight back to Kefri. Like I said, if he's going to go down, he's going to go down swinging.
Oh, sick one from Kefri. The tightest little sightline, and knows exactly when Blue's coming as well. Quick fingers finds that one again, showing Blue who's boss. Nicely handled, and now Nova, they have made the change, but they are still very far behind. Just look at the ultimates.
So what you do have to consider here is that Water has to be very careful. Now we're going back in a sort of position where Blue, if he doesn't get massively shut down, and he has died once to Kefri, he is going to do a lot of work against Water. Even if he doesn't kill him, just needs to pressure him out. He's getting triple value off of one pick. Very important. But 40% is gone, and a lot of ultimates online for Pantheon.
It's going to be the Rocket Barrage out almost all onto
Great
Nexus, and he just gets completely, it's nullified, it's absorbed. He didn't even get through all of the shielding. And now, like you said, hacked out as well. It's going to be on the point in Hyok, throwing out the minefield. Out of the net goes Sakura, has to self-destruct to preserve it. That self-destruct is good, it zones members out, and Sakura will remech. But without Kefri, they're relying only on Water, who does not have medic in the pocket. Blue is still a threat here as well, and one's able to finish off Water. Now it's only Kefri coming out in the respawn. Does feel like Nova have done well in this fight in dealing with the DPS.
They got a cap though.
But that's the thing, and they've actually not had the critical mass of numbers at any junction.
By the way,
it's
here comes the EMP.
Inverse of what we saw on Well, but that EMP, that sound barrier out, if they can get the kills here, they should be able to secure a cap off the back of it, and there are those kills. 83, 84, maybe up to 90% total will be what GE Pantheon will get. That is all they will get for the time
So
being.
I do want to mention that was pretty expensive. The fact that Global Esports were able to get those ults out of Nova is a pretty big deal. Now comes the place where can Nova hold on to this, much like we saw on Lijiang Tower. Don't be surprised. We have seen G Pantheon into the lead and then somehow still lose. So Nova Esports, it's certainly not over. They need to keep pressuring out both Kefri and Water, deal with the tanks, then they can still win.
Oh, Inhyuk so low. Barely staying alive on that one. That was absurdly low health. Getting a tiny bit of shield was absolutely massive for him. GE Pantheon now just resetting for a moment. They're looking for the frags. Water soon to be coming up on a rocket barrage.
And he's such an important member as well. He hasn't had a lot
low.
of success.
Blue's
This
down
is why he probably has to change
Straight back.
pretty soon.
They could res him if he's in a favorable position, but look at this Nova. They're just playing guard with the tanks. They don't want to let that res go through. They know that there is probably a rocket barrage. He's going to have to come back the slow way, and that self-destruct as well just keeps GE Pantheon at bay.
So this is where Water, if he doesn't get value off this barrage, he has to basically swap off heroes. Sakura going down is very bad news as well. EMP nearly online. One has been charging this one up slowly, and Nova, if they can win with the EMP, they'll be able to put themselves in a position to then also be able to play onto the 99% overtime. Water has died after using barrage again. Got nothing on the barrage. He probably changes here. If he doesn't, it's probably bad news.
Medic committing that ultimate as well, not getting anything. That's a res though committed. Sound barrier in, EMP out.
Water's down again.
Stun to come through. This has to be a fast reset. They do find rest here. And Blue though, Kefri's still in this one. Don't count it out. Self-destruct on from Sakura. Doesn't get kills. Does get back in the mech, but look at that. The damage is already done. They have to reset fast. 85%. They can't afford to lose anyone else here. Sakura will not get hacked out here.
Very important. 90% is what we are dealing with. Kefri's even going to come back onto an Ash Shell. This is at the final fight. Either team can take this. The team that wins this fight probably wins the entire match.
And there is only one ultimate coming up for GE Pantheon. He's not even there just yet. Anderson Nano boost. Crazy S have already found Medic. He's out of the picture. Sakura's out of the mech. Water, he's on the Genji, the greatest hits of GE Pantheon, but he's already taken down.
EMP available.
Kefri's got a frag out. He's not able to do so just so yet. Sakura's already down. Inhyuk solo tanking Medic, trying to rejoin the fray. Now it's all on Kefri. He gets Blue. He's not going to be able to get the tanks. Medic's going to try and stall. They have no res. They have nothing left in the tank. And the road for Global Esports Pantheon, they will not establish aforementioned deification. Nova second upset of the night will go to the semi-finals.
And Season 3 of Contenders will be the season of upsets. It will be the season of underdogs as well. Now twice in a row, the lowest seeded team, the team you did not expect to come through a win, has done exactly that. Tournament favorites are gone. Team favorites, fan favorites are gone. Very good efforts from all sides, but it just comes down to the wire. And thematically for a team like GE Pantheon, like I said, when you get to the final maps and you get to the final stages, you are playing the absolute best of the best. You are playing the absolute of this is how we have won. This is what has gotten us here. If this doesn't work, nothing will work. So you can absolutely say for a team like GE Pantheon who do lose here, they have done all they have could on this particular series, on this particular map. They went out with their biggest guns possible. They went out with everything they could have possibly have done. If that's not enough, then nothing would have been enough.
And you've just got to credit Nova. That's the thing. We said it right at the top of the series. Look, Nova almost feel like they just sort of scraped in. That, you know, the only sign of promise they had is just that first week performance. And I mean, I still almost have that feeling about this team, but suddenly a couple of weeks pass, we come into the playoffs. Like I said, this is playoffs Nova. Things are different now. This is the Nova. This is the Nova that was able to challenge Talon way back. Talon, who, need I remind you, are now out of the tournament themselves. This is a Nova that wouldn't have maybe suffered some of those same losses. This is a Nova that could beat out Xavier. And that's a team they could end up playing as well if they maybe get all the way to a final and Xavier meet them there. Who knows anymore, right? Who knows what's coming ahead of us, because already neither of these two matches went the expected way. Even like we had the expected upset, if you could call it that, and now an unexpected one as well. All bets are off. We will have a new champion one way or another, and it could even be Nova.
And the thing is, you're in a sort of space now where, I mean, it's a tough pill to swallow for everybody. I mean, win or lose. If Talon win, if Talon lose, if Cyclone Coupling win, lose, these two teams as well, it is always going to really suck for whoever goes home, because you can just see, especially based on how close it is. But the other thing is, I just think it's absolutely insane that when you look at it at the end of the day, and when you look at how that map 5 went, how Ilios went, the fact that it was coming down to Widow Fire again, or even Ash Fire, and it was the fact that their best composition ended up being probably the one they relied too much on to try and get them across the line. They couldn't. I have to go back on, this is going to be the final bit of analysis, the fact that Blue going on to the Widowmaker is going to pressure out the Fire. If Carefree or anyone cannot completely dominate Blue out of the game, even if Blue is not killing Carefree, he is removing Water from the game. He is removing the Fire from the game. Water did not find a single good barrage. Not because he's bad, not because he's necessarily...
He's incredible.
He did as much as he could. That composition was just not going to work. And so it's just, it's an interesting sense of how the team comes around in a circle where what worked so well for them ended up what